Right now, a very particular kind of alarm is rippling through the White House corridors. And it's happening because Donald Trump's favorite tool just broke. Over the past year, you've seen Trump wield the US dollar together with savage tariff warnings to keep Canada cornered. He insisted on complete submission. He delivered Prime Minister Mark Carney a harsh, very public deadline. Submit, give up your trade independence, or see your economy go up in flames. He figured Canada had no escape. He figured Canada had zero other options. He was completely mistaken. Carney refused to fold. He constructed a protective barrier. Just minutes ago, the bulletin flashed across financial wires. Brazil and Canada have completely sidestepped the United States, inking an enormous $270 billion resource agreement that entirely excludes the American banking network. Trump attempted to trap Canada. Carney just overturned the whole strategic chessboard. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to lay out the precise step that locked this agreement in place, why Washington was taken totally by surprise, and how this gigantic, historic tremor is going to strike your own finances head on. Don't look away, because the planet is changing live and you're witnessing history happen. To grasp the true magnitude of the quake that just rocked worldwide markets, we need to examine the actual situation right now. Yesterday morning, the U.S. Supreme Court invalidated Donald Trump's emergency tariffs targeting Canada and Mexico. It represented a crushing, deeply embarrassing courtroom loss for the administration. But rather than accept the setback, pause, and return to serious talks like a typical government would, Trump escalated. He promptly issued a legally questionable executive order imposing a fresh across-the-board 10% tariff on imports from everywhere. He jumped onto social media and warned he would deploy national security statutes to devastate Canadian steel, aluminum, and vital supply networks. He aimed to demonstrate he still called the shots. He wanted to radiate total control. Yet while Trump was furiously typing posts on his phone and dismissing staff who urged restraint, Mark Carney was discreetly working diplomatic channels. Today, the outcome of those low-profile discussions was televised live from Brasilia. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva and Prime Minister Mark Carney appeared together at a lectern and revealed a stunning $270 billion critical resources framework. This goes far beyond a symbolic gesture. It forms a legally enforceable structure spanning energy, farming, and the strategic minerals essential for the coming century of defense and consumer technology. But here is the one element that sent ice through every Wall Street trading desk. The whole $270 billion arrangement intentionally, precisely, and by design avoids the United States dollar. Yes, you read correctly. Two of the biggest economies in the Americas are locking Washington out. They are creating a direct settlement system. No American banks, no American currency, no remaining leverage for Donald Trump. Brazil has been outraged with the United States for months. Trump's tariffs have strangled their growth, and his latest extremely confrontational diplomatic moves crossed an unforgivable boundary for Lula's team. Brazil felt intimidated. Canada felt intimidated. So Carney moved into the gap and proposed a radically different approach, a partnership rooted in shared endurance, an alliance of necessity. What occurred today is not merely another commercial accord. It is an open statement of financial self-determination away from the United States. Trump drove his nearest partners right to the breaking edge, and today that partnership finally shattered. You might be thinking, it's only one more trade arrangement. Leaders sign these documents constantly, and usually nothing shifts. No, this stands apart. This runs deep structurally. When you move beyond the official statements and examine the actual workings of what Carney and Lula finalized, you see this represents a deliberate, carefully planned strike at the central foundations of American economic supremacy. Let's review the evidence. Evidence 1, the mineral advantage. Glance at your phone. Consider the battery inside an electric car. Consider the navigation systems on the defense platforms the U.S. military depends on for global reach. They all demand a precise mix of critical minerals. lithium, copper, nickel, rare earth elements, and niobium. At present, the United States is starving for these substances. They require them to challenge China's technology industry. They require them to revive domestic manufacturing. And where do those minerals originate? Canada and Brazil. Until today, Washington believed it held a locked-in customer. But thanks to this new $270 billion framework, Canada and Brazil are rapidly merging their supply networks. They are combining their vast natural wealth. If the U.S. wants Canadian copper or Brazilian niobium, Washington no longer sets the terms. Carney and Lula have just created a consolidated commodity alliance. Should Trump carry out his warning of a 25% tariff on Canadian aluminum, Canada will simply send that metal southward to Brazil or eastward across the ocean to Europe. The supply route has quietly rerouted itself around the United States. The bargaining power has vanished. Evidence 2, the dollar exclusion. This is the piece that has the Federal Reserve genuinely rattled. For almost 80 years, the U.S. dollar has reigned as the unchallenged global reserve currency. It is the lifeblood of international commerce. If a mining firm in Toronto wishes to purchase heavy machinery from Sao Paulo, that deal has always been denominated in dollars and cleared via a correspondent bank in New York. That exact arrangement grants the U.S. government extraordinary, almost incomprehensible influence. It explains why American financial sanctions succeed. It is precisely why Donald Trump believes he can command the entire planet. He owns the toll gate. Mark Carney just constructed an express route that completely avoids the toll gate. You must recall who Mark Carney actually is. He served as governor of the Bank of England. He served as governor of the Bank of Canada. He spent a decade inside Goldman Sachs. He comprehends the intricate inner workings of the worldwide financial architecture more thoroughly than anyone now inside Trump's inner circle. The fresh Canada-Brazil framework sets up a bilateral settlement facility. Starting today, commerce between Carney's emerging partnership and Brazil will be finalized in their own national currencies, supported by alternative digital records and commodity exchanges. The funds never pass through New York. The U.S. Treasury cannot monitor them. Trump cannot impose duties on them. The dollar has been entirely removed, making Trump's tariff warnings mathematically powerless. Evidence 3, the market terror. Financial markets never bluff. Politicians talk, but money reveals reality. The moment news of the $270 billion framework surfaced this morning, you could see the understanding sweep across trading floors live. The U.S. dollar index, the DXY, dropped sharply, falling faster than it has in 14 months. U.S. Treasury yields surged abruptly as overseas trust dissolved. Wall Street strategists started sending urgent crimson alerts to their big institutional accounts. Why the immediate fear? Because the sharpest capital in the world just recognized that Trump's America First approach is quickly turning into America isolated. If Canada, historically America's nearest neighbor, largest trading partner, most intertwined military and economic friend, can successfully sidestep the U.S. financial structure, the floodgates are open. Who follows? The European Union, Japan, South Korea. Investors are suddenly confronting the frightening possibility that Trump's unpredictable, belligerent tariff campaign is not shielding the U.S. economy. It is isolating it, and capital is running from the disorder. Evidence 4, the complete quiet from Europe. When a serious geopolitical rupture occurs, you watch who hurries to support the United States. Today, nobody stepped forward. Ordinarily, the U.S. State Department would promptly press its European partners to denounce any action that endangers the dollar. But Brussels has stayed absolutely mute. In fact, information is already emerging from Davos that European finance officials were privately informed about the Canada-Brazil settlement system weeks ago. They are not criticizing it. They are examining it. They are reviewing Carney's model and considering how quickly they can connect their own economies to it. The evidence is unmistakable. The world is not merely upset with Donald Trump. The world is deliberately organizing to remove his control. To see how we reach this pivotal historic rupture, you have to study how Donald Trump behaves whenever he believes he holds the advantage. He knows only one tactic: intimidation. Trump sees international trade and alliances as a pure zero-sum contest. In his view, For America to gain, others must lose. He employs tariffs not as a precise economic instrument, but as a crude hammer, betting that the sheer size of the U.S. consumer market will ultimately compel everyone to submit. He warned Canada of 25% tariffs to enforce total border obedience. He threatened 100% tariffs on any country that dared drift from the U.S. dollar. He antagonized Brazil's government. He started pointless quarrels with Mexico. He pushed away the European Union. He dealt with world leaders like reality show participants. He escalates through warnings. But here is the fatal weakness in his approach: the oversight that is dismantling his influence. The world is answering with substitutes. When you menace your partners daily, when you transform your currency into a weapon instead of a source of stability, eventually those partners quit trying to placate you. They stop bargaining. They begin constructing defenses. Trump's leverage is rebounding against him live, and he is caught inside his own method. Consider the chain reaction. He threatened huge tariffs on Canadian products. In direct response, Canadian and Brazilian firms halted planned investments inside American plants. U.S. supply networks grew anxious. Shipping firms began searching for alternative harbors beyond U.S. control. The price of basic materials across the American heartland soared, and who bears that cost? The American voter bears that cost. Trump believed he could dictate conditions to Ottawa. He believed Canada was fundamentally vulnerable. He believed he could weaponize the coming USMCA review to hold Canada at gunpoint and dismantle its economic strengths. But his nonstop intimidation opened a void. He created a diplomatic atmosphere so poisonous, so wildly unstable, that a major rising economy such as Brazil was prepared to accept a historic multi-billion-dollar gamble simply to escape Washington's danger zone. Trump is losing grip because you cannot coerce a global marketplace indefinitely. You can twist it, compress it, and menace it only so long before it flows around the obstacle. Water always finds its path down the slope. Capital always discovers a route past any barrier. And right now, the entire world economy is watching Donald Trump swing a wrecking ball inside an empty space while Mark Carney silently replaces every lock. That contrast brings us to the Prime Minister and the sharp, obvious difference in leadership visible on the global stage. Mark Carney does not battle the way Donald Trump battles. You will never catch Carney firing unhinged all-caps tirades on social media at 3 a.m. You will not see him flinging personal attacks at American citizens or throwing fits during media sessions. Carney functions on an entirely separate wavelength. He relies on structures. He relies on worldwide partnerships. He relies on the precise, unforgiving reasoning of markets. When Trump shouts, Carney computes. He takes the pressure and skillfully converts it into advantage. During the past year, while the White House has resembled a chaotic spectacle of dismissals, angry courtroom fights, and rash executive orders scribbled hastily, Carney has moved like a shadow through the corridors of international influence. He attended the World Economic Forum, quietly presenting a sophisticated plan for strategic economic self-reliance. He traveled to Asia to lock in early tariff relief. He is now gearing up for the Munich Security Conference to cement unbreakable European security and commercial links. He is not isolating Canada. He is assembling a coalition of reliability. Carney's signal to global markets is brutally clear. Canada remains open for commerce. Canada is a dependable, consistent ally, and Canada will never allow itself to be taken captive by the unpredictable moods of one erratic figure in Washington. This $270 billion framework with Brazil stands as the perfect realization of that approach. It is flawless execution. It goes beyond trading potash or gold or farm products. It concerns pure independence. It proves in hard currency terms that middle-sized nations can unite to establish a stable alternative financial architecture whenever the dominant superpower turns erratic. Carney is playing a decades-long strategy. He understands that trust inside bond markets carries far greater weight than cable news drama. By finalizing this framework, by carrying out the dollar exclusion, he has just demonstrated to the entire planet that Canada possesses genuine, workable alternatives. And in any serious negotiation, the party holding alternatives is the party that prevails. So what does this truly mean for you? Why should you, sitting at home right now, care whether Brazil and Canada settle transactions in their own currencies halfway across the world? Because even if global finance feels distant and even if Canada seems remote, Canada affects your daily existence constantly. If you are eating at a restaurant in Ohio or commuting in Texas or covering expenses in Florida at this moment, you will experience the aftershock of this agreement. The United States benefits from what economists label exorbitant privilege because the dollar serves as the world's reserve currency. The U.S. government can print currency, sustain enormous deficits, and maintain comparatively low interest rates because everyone else must hold dollars to conduct trade among themselves. When that supremacy cracks, when nations such as Canada and Brazil demonstrate they no longer require the dollar, that privilege disappears. And when it disappears, inflation surges rapidly. The U.S. government can no longer offload its debt overseas. Interest rates remain punishingly elevated. Your mortgage payment climbs. Your auto loan suddenly feels impossible. Your credit card balance turns into an inescapable burden. Moreover, when Canada redirects its premium-grade critical minerals toward Brazil and the European Union rather than the United States, American plants producing your electric vehicles, household appliances, and power infrastructure confront immediate shortages. The cost of a U.S.-built car jumps sharply. Manufacturing decelerates, work hours shrink, employment vanishes. Donald Trump stood on stage promising that his tariffs would erect an unbreakable wall around the U.S. economy and return all manufacturing home. But this $270 billion framework proves the precise opposite is unfolding. Advanced manufacturing and resource upgrading are fleeing the United States. They are relocating to places that provide sanity, predictability, and consistent regulations. This is a historic, screaming warning light about the complete breakdown of U.S. global leadership. For 80 years, the world quietly trusted the United States to maintain the fundamental rules of the international economy. Now the world is deliberately, energetically protecting itself against the United States. The confidence has vanished, and history shows that once confidence exits a financial system, rebuilding it takes generations. One moment during today's signing ceremony in Brasilia captured this enormous power realignment perfectly. Cameras flashed, papers were signed. An American network journalist called out from the rear, asking whether the deal was deliberately aimed at provoking President Trump. Carney did not frown. He did not shout. He simply straightened his microphone, looked straight into the lenses, and replied, "We are not interested in provocations. We are interested in mathematics." And the numbers show that Canada will trade wherever its independence is honored. The statement landed like ice. Carney did not start a fight. He simply raised the price of disregarding Canada to a level Donald Trump cannot sustain. Normally, this is the point where conventional leaders intervene to cool tensions. Diplomats quietly reopen private lines. The atmosphere is methodically lowered, but Donald Trump does not do cooling. He does not grasp de-escalation. We face three plausible near-term paths unfolding over the coming weeks, and each carries serious risk. Scenario A, this appears the most probable. Trump explodes. He views the Brasilia footage and interprets the currency bypass as a profound personal insult. In fury, he orders his treasury to discover any method, legal or otherwise, to punish the Canadian-Brazilian settlement system. He unilaterally applies full 50% Section 232 national security tariffs on every Canadian metal purely for revenge. The trade conflict shifts instantly from chilly standoff to blazing war. Supply lines break overnight, and U.S. inflation surges to levels that will ignite a deep recession. Scenario B, escalation and complete solitude. The Carney-Lula partnership refuses to retreat. Instead, it expands. Mexico, worn down and wounded by Trump's endless border warnings, discreetly dispatches representatives to join the alternative settlement network. The European Union, observing the clear success of the Brazil framework, begins preparing comparable bilateral arrangements with Ottawa. Trump is reduced to shouting at an audience that has already muted him. The U.S. economy decelerates sharply, suffocating as it is excluded from worldwide expansion. Scenario C, the shocking, humiliating retreat. Wall Street compels Trump to reverse course. The U.S. stock market, horrified at the prospect of permanently losing access to North and South American strategic resources, throws an unprecedented meltdown. Trillions in market value disappear within days. The major donors and business leaders who bankroll Trump's operation storm the Oval Office and insist he reverse, or they will walk away. He is compelled to declare a phony symbolic win, silently withdraw the tariff warnings, and act as though the entire episode never occurred. Yet here is the chilling reality for Washington. Even if scenario C plays out, the harm is already irreversible. The world has studied the template. The method has been cracked. The Global South and Global North now understand precisely how to prosper without Washington's approval. We have just observed a fundamental fracture in the geopolitical order, a $270 billion crack running through the bedrock of the global financial architecture. Donald Trump sought absolute, unchallenged dominance over his neighbors. He sought to govern through intimidation. Instead, he compelled his partners to discover their own enormous strength. He forced Canada to the brink, and Mark Carney answered with the momentum of the entire world behind him. So I want your thoughts. Do you believe Mark Carney is brilliantly safeguarding Canada's long-term interests, or is he deliberately provoking Donald Trump to overreact and wreck his own economy? Share your view in the comments right now. I read every single one, and this conversation is only beginning. The world is changing live while mainstream outlets lag far behind. If you want the real evidence and the facts before the news cycle catches up, hit subscribe. Stay alert. Keep watching.